Okay, so you finished up the cylinders. Now we are going to start with 1-point perspective boxes or cubes. And so again, we are going to draw one overlapping our eye level. We're going to draw one above and one below. So to do this, you will draw probably a 2.5 inches where they're overlapping the eye level. So you can do a square or a rectangle. And so I will have this rectangle overlapping the eye level. Now with 1-point perspective, remember this, on your term, you are working with a perfect shape. And so all these cubes on this side will have the perfect shape. So we have a perfect rectangle overlapping our eye level. Then after that, you will draw probably a smaller one up on top, and so I'll make a smaller one. And then after that, I will draw one below. So all three of these are perfect shapes, okay? Perfect rectangles and perfect squares, okay? So 1-point perspective, a rectangle or a square above, overlapping, and below your eye level. Now, that means one side is going off to a vanishing point when it's on your eye level. And so now how do we determine where this line is going? It's called a vanishing point. So right now, make sure you have this. You are going to put a vanishing point over here, and it's going to be a dot. Vanishing points typically happen on the eye level line. There's some really cool perspective stuff out there that doesn't have the vanishing points on eye levels. But most of the time for the intro levels, we always put our vanishing points on our eye level. So make sure you have this dot and label it VP1. So that means I'm going to have these two corners will line up with my vanishing point. Do you see how I'm taking the corner? I'm going to my vanishing point. You can never ever make up a slant that's receding backwards. So I will draw that for an inch. Then I come up here, I line up the corner, draw it to my vanishing point, draw it for about an inch, okay? And so both of these two lines are going to the vanishing point number 1, okay? Do you notice how it's getting smaller? Remember, things get smaller as they go off into the background. Then after that, the one key phrase I always say is whatever you do to the front, you do the same thing for the back. So this is a straight vertical. So that means back here is a straight vertical, okay? So now we have the box. Now in middle school or 4th or 5th grade, you probably made buildings like this. So everything that's on the perfect shape on the front, you would have a perfect door, you would have a perfect window, if I could make one, and then you would have perfect circles. If I was over here, and if I wanted to make this all windows, do you notice how I have to use a vanishing point? And this is the same thing that happened with the tower for the cylinder. Do you notice how they start going in the opposite direction? Then the sides would go straight up and down, and this could be all windows. You don't have to draw this. This is just a quick reminder of what you did in middle school or 4th or 5th grade. So now our next shape, we are going to have 3 corners above. So that means we are going to be able to see the bottom because we can see the bottom of the cylinder. That means we can see the bottom of that cube. So after you find those 3 dots, you will take these 3 points and only draw for like an inch. Remember that middle we are saving for our 2-point perspective. So these are going to the vanishing point 1, vanishing point 1, and vanishing point 1. Now if you notice, this is closer to our eye level, so you see how squished it's getting? If we had a box way up here, that bottom would be bigger, just like our cylinders would be, okay? So everybody has those 3 lines going to the vanishing point. So again, you have this vertical line right here. You would cut this off. and the back. Whatever you do to the front, you do the same thing to the back. Now this line right here, this is a horizontal line, and when students draw this, they always try to fix it. They always try to visualize it and say, well, this looks correct. If you notice, my ruler is not matching this horizontal line. So you really have to pay attention on this one, and you're going to line up your ruler, slide it down, keeping it parallel, equal, the same. Has to match the front, because remember the front always does the same thing what the back does. So then after that, when I draw it, it looks kind of funky, but presto, when I pull it back, it makes sense. So this really has to be squished. And make sure if this is a horizontal line, you have a horizontal line back here. So now if this was a die, I would have a perfect circle in the front because we're working with 1 point perspective. And then over here, I would have my 3. And do you notice how I'm getting my ovals vertical and they're getting bigger as they come out towards me? And on the bottom, I will do my 1. Okay, so now if you're ever working with a die or dice, the top and the bottom of the dice will always equal 7. So that's the reason why I could not have a 4 here on the bottom or a 2 here on the bottom, because 2 is over on this side and 4 is over on this side, so that means up on the top I would have 6 dots. And it was easier to draw in 1, so I'm keeping the 6 above so nobody has to see me try to draw 6 in there. So now we're down to our last one. This one, you will see the top, okay? So now I have my 3 dots, and remember you have to use that vanishing point, have to. So I'm going to take my 3 dots and make sure you're lining it up to the vanishing point. So I draw for an inch, go up to the next one, take my corner, line it up to the dot. You always have to line it up to the dot, and that way it'll force your sides that are going off into the background to get smaller. So these are all going to vanishing point 1, vanishing point 1, vanishing point 1. Then we know whatever we do to the front, this is a straight vertical, we come in with a straight vertical. Okay, then after that, line up your ruler. This is the tricky one because students always try to fix it. It needs no fixing. This is a horizontal line, this is a horizontal line. Okay, so this is horizontal, horizontal, this one's vertical, vertical. Okay, so all these lines should be going to your vanishing point. So we have all those going to the vanishing point. And remember, vanishing points, they found this out during the Renaissance time period. So that's the reason why you have a lot of buildings happening in their artwork, because they were having a lot of fun with vanishing points. So now, let's say if this is a box. What I would end up doing is I could make up a slant. Okay, so I made up this slant. This is a horizontal line, horizontal line. Whatever I do to the top, I do the same thing to the bottom. Whatever I do to the left, I do the same thing over to the right. So now if I have my slant here, I'm making up my own slant. This one went to vanishing point number 1. So that means the top right here has to go to vanishing point number 1, VP1. Then this was a slant. I repeat the same slant. Okay, so now I have this one. I'm just making up the slant for the lid. This is a horizontal line, make up the same slant. Okay, so now I have this one over here, making up that slant. The top went to vanishing point number 1, so that means the bottom has to go to vanishing point number 1, and then I come with the same slant. And then if I can see inside my box, I can put that line there. Okay, so remember, with 1 point perspective, you start off with the perfect shape first. Then you take the sides and the corners to the vanishing point. And then after that, remember, whatever you do to the front, you do the same thing to the back. Okay, whatever you do to one side, you do the same thing for the other side, and you have it. So the next video, I will show you how to do 2 point perspective cubes in the middle.